Week 8 ends with an overtime win for the New Orleans Saints, at least before Sunday night and Monday night. We got some injury updates. 3 49ers left with an injury. That should just expect that at this point. We welcome you to Fantasy Football today. We'll tell you all about what happened on Sunday. Adam Azer, Dave Richard, and Heath Cummings. Dave, in 30 seconds or less, what is your biggest takeaway from Fantasy Week 8?
I felt like there was no good defense played in Week 8. That every team, like the defenses that did well in fantasy were because of bad offensive play. And maybe that's the case every week. Maybe we've just been blind to this, but there were fleeting moments of good defensive play from game to game.
I got one.
What have you got?
Miami Dolphins.
Right, but that was because Jared Goff looked like Ben DiNucci in the first half.
He was terrible. Oh,
he didn't get going until he hit Robert Woods on a middle of the field throw in the third quarter, and then from that point forward, he was on point.
That was your biggest takeaway?
I don't know why.
Yeah, that was a straight
whole week.
I knew Dave was going to say that because he was talking about it on text. But Heath,
I used the word that I can't say on the podcast.
Well, what's your biggest takeaway in 30 seconds or less, Heath?
The Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf thing is an every other week thing, and you shouldn't play Tyler Lockett after his big games, and you probably shouldn't play DK Metcalf after his big game.
Oh, there were 2 things in particular that held up this week. One, I certainly did not make a start-sit decision on, but I told you in 8 of his previous 9 games following 100-yard performances, Tyler Lockett followed it up with 60 or fewer yards the next week. Or no, just fewer than 60 yards.
Oh, no, I got a better one.
Well, okay, but then the next thing, the more important one that you should remember going forward, wide receivers with 6 or more targets against the Bengals. It's now 7 of the last 8 have had either 86 yards or a touchdown. 2 more today. A.J. Brown scored a touchdown. Corey Davis had a big game. So 6 or more targets against the Bengals is almost a lock for good fantasy production. Heath, what would you like to amend your biggest takeaway?
No, I'm good with that one.
Okay.
Let's move on.
That was weird. All right. Watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasy football today. Hope you all enjoyed the Halloween episode. Got a little wacky, a little spooky. And listen to all of our podcasts, cbssports.com/podcasts or podcast. I think they both take you to the same destination. cbssports.com/podcasts. We have so many great shows, all things covered with Bryant McFadden and Patrick Peterson. We've got, David Sampson's podcast, which is great. We got our golf podcast. Just such great shows across the CBS Sports Network. So, pay attention. How's your Halloween, guys? Dave, how was your Halloween before I get to the Grinch who stole Halloween?
Quiet. Not nearly as many trick-or-treaters as we normally get. We live in a neighborhood with lots of families and young kids. So that was a little sad, but sign of the times, and that's okay. And then I went and I had a humongous pasta dish, and it was amazing. Pappardelle pasta with short rib and melted mozzarella with crispy Brussels sprouts and onions in there. Oh, it was so good.
Okay.
So good.
Heath, how about you? Happy Halloween.
I am so fat.
Well, it's weird to say happy Halloween after it's Halloween, but I really knocked it out of the park this year with Halloween. Took my kid around the block one time. I dressed up as Patrick Mahomes. I just wore my Patrick Mahomes jersey.
Oh.
And I took him around the block one time, and then I took him to a brewery, and we had some food truck wings.
Cool.
And then I took him to a mini golf place, and we played haunted mini golf. It was all decorated for Halloween.
Cool. I love that place.
And then we came home and watched It.
Which one?
The most recent It, not It
really
2.
Good. Really good, right?
What I didn't realize until I watched it was how much Stranger Things was a ripoff.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I mean,
Just a complete and total ripoff in almost every single way.
Well, Stranger Things is a ripoff of so many things, but it's more of an homage.
But I love it. Like, that's my 11-year-old's favorite show by far. He's already watched it 4 times all the way through, Stranger Things.
Oh, wow.
And so he'd never really watched a scary movie. So this was his first, and it was a perfect one to choose because of the similarities between that and Stranger Things.
Right. Yeah, it was a surprisingly very good movie. I was impressed. I finished.
A surprisingly very good job by me on Halloween, actually.
Yeah, good job. You don't really deserve it, but good job enjoying Halloween. I finished The Haunting of Bly Manor. I cannot recommend more strongly The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. They both were so good, and they're on Netflix, so enjoy them. Okay, George Kittle hurt his foot or his ankle. Do we know what it is? Lower
I do not. No.
All right. No fracture on the initial x-rays. They have Green Bay next week. Tevin Coleman left with a knee injury early in the game. I think he only had 3 carries.
3 carries, 20 yards.
So JaMychal Hasty scored a touchdown. Jerick McKinnon had 3 carries for -1 yard and 1 touchdown. So I guess if you started them, I guess you're kind of happy. And Jimmy Garoppolo left with an ankle injury. Score may have had something to do with that. I think Garoppolo had 1 fantasy point. Nick Mullins came in and had 20 or 21 in the 4th quarter. So that was fun. Marquise Brown wants the ball, guys. He got
it.
Nah, not enough. Right? He's the squeaky wheel now. He did catch 1 touchdown, yes. So he wants the ball. He said he's not getting the ball enough, so we like that, I guess, going forward. Ronnie Stanley, though, their left tackle, we don't like this. He's out for the season with a broken ankle. That stinks, and they lost their left guard to an injury in the 1st quarter, too. So rough day for the Ravens, bad loss, and lost 2 offensive linemen. Don't know about the seriousness of the other injury. I just know Stanley's out for the year. Do we know about Darrell Henderson? And he's going into his bye week. Anything on him? He left with a thigh injury.
That's all I've got right now is the thigh injury, and I can double check when exactly he left in the game. Game script may have played a role in that one too. Remember, the Rams were down big.
Yeah.
And then they kind of came back. So let me double check on that. Right. I'll let you know in a sec.
Okay. Open the door a little bit for Cam Akers, who was okay. So.
Yeah. So I got it right here. His last touch was in the middle part of the 2nd quarter. It was on the Goff sack fumble touchdown return for the Dolphins. Didn't play after that. So he was probably not a blowout type of deal. We will see. And Cam Akers looked okay. There was 1 catch he had where he showed off everything that he did at FSU. It was great to see.
Chargers-Broncos came down to the last play of the game from the 1-yard line after a pass interference call, and Drew Lock threw a touchdown pass to KJ Hamler. It was a great way to finish the game, and then he did a really bad dance on the field. It was really awkward. So that was my last piece of big news. The bad weather games. Going into this, we had 4 games, I think, that we were pretty nervous about, maybe. 5?
I'd say 5.
Well, on FFT and 5, I said I wasn't as worried about the Saints and Bears game because it had been dropped by Kevin Roth to yellow from orange or red threat level. And I think that mostly played out. I don't think the wind was as bad there today.
No, it wasn't. But there were definitely times where it was a factor. And Breeze, Breeze didn't throw the ball down the field, but Foles did.
Yeah, Drew Brees, we can talk about that more later, but like I made the joke that the wind wouldn't affect him because he never throws it more than 5 yards.
Right.
And it was affecting his 5-yard throws. Like he has nothing.
But he's still scoring a good amount of fantasy points. He's doing it all without Michael Thomas the last 2
But
weeks.
He's not scoring a good amount of fantasy points for a fantasy quarterback in today's game. Like he is like consistently around 18th.
18th. I thought you were going to say 18 points. Yeah. So I think he's got 23 or more fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. It's exactly
that sounds right. But how many of them were like close to 30?
Not many. Maybe 1.
Yeah, I think.
And he's had some rushing touchdowns, so it's been a little fluky. But again, he's had Michael Thomas for 1 game. Are you not encouraged by his productivity considering he hasn't had his wide receiver?
I think he's the type of quarterback that you're happy to have on your fantasy team until you can find a better fantasy quarterback.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you guys about the weather. Did we learn any lessons? I don't know that we're going to have a weekend like this again, but you look at the passing yards for the 8 quarterbacks involved in the 4 games that were kind of flagged, maybe 5. Aaron Rodgers had 291 yards. And when he threw the deep ball to Robert Tunyan, didn't seem like he really threw great. So
I disagree. I thought that was okay.
Okay. I thought he missed him. He makes a better throw. It's probably a touchdown. Joe Burrow.
Okay. So you're thinking that the wind may have knocked it down.
Maybe. Yeah. Joe Burrow, 249 yards. Tannehill, 233. Then it gets ugly. Cam, 174, which is actually pretty good for him.
That's good for Cam.
Cousins, 160. I think he threw like 14 passes.
That's it.
Josh Allen, 154. Baker Mayfield,
he also only attempted like 18 passes. Yeah. Josh Allen did. Baker, right. You were saying?
Mayfield, 122. Derek Carr, 112. So yeah. I think if you got away from the passing games, you probably were pretty smart doing that.
Yeah, except I got away from the passing games on several teams, and I was pretty encouraged because I was able to find Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo on the waiver wire.
No.
Yeah, it was. But you made the right call, though, at least with Garoppolo, I think. See, like you should have started Mullins.
No, I should have started one of the quarterbacks that are actually maybe good, Jimmy Garoppolo's not.
These guys didn't have good games, really, except for Rodgers.
No, but they were much better than Garoppolo.
Rodgers had a funky game.
Yeah,
I don't think you can blame that one so much on the wind.
no, but he scored like 28 points or something.
I know. Right. He really should have had more. There was a series, and this is when they were somehow going for it on 4th and 10 when it was still a close game, where he had his pass catchers drop 4 consecutive passes.
Wow.
First down to Irvin drop, second down to Irvin drop. And those are like on
Maybe stop throwing it to Tyler Irvin.
I'm telling you. And then the next 2 plays went to Equanimous St. Brown, who dropped them both.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he's making poor choices in who he throws the ball to.
He's throwing it to who's open, and he's putting it right on the money, and those guys can't come through. I can't believe I'm saying this. He needs Alan Lazard back bad, or he needs Brandon Cooks or Will Fuller bad. Ooh.
Could happen. Well, I guess my last point on this is, if you were excited about Rashard Higgins, Nelson Aguilar, Cole Beasley, you pick them up. You don't have to necessarily panic. There was not a lot of passing in those games. In many of those games, there were not a lot of passing yards. Higgins had 14 yards. Aguilar kind of dropped a touchdown, but he ended up with no catches on 2 targets. Cole Beasley, 2 catches for 24 yards. AJ Green was terrible. Adam Thielen was terrible.
You could throw Harrison Bryant in there.
Yeah, and he fumbled. AJ Brown had only 24 yards. One of them was a touchdown. 1 catch was a touchdown, so that's nice. So, all right, we can move past that. Let's do some buy or sell. Jonathan Taylor cannot be trusted. Buy or sell?
That would have made a good believe it or not. I will. It depends on what you mean by that, but I will buy it for next week and sell it for the rest of the season. They face the Baltimore Ravens in their next game. And I don't know, coming off of that type of performance, my take on this is I don't actually believe there is a chance that Jordan Wilkins is better. I don't actually believe there's a chance that Jordan Wilkins is going to be the lead back in this backfield. But there's clearly something going on right now where Jonathan Taylor is not doing the things that they want him to do or the things that he needs to do to be successful. And so I don't have a great deal of confidence that he's going to get more than half of the touches in week 9, and they're facing the Ravens. And so it will be difficult to start him in week 9. But I still think that rest of season, he'll be a starting fantasy running back.
I'm going to take a stab at it. It looks like he's slow to process plays because he's not, it feels like he's not running freely. Whereas at least for 1 week, Jordan Wilkins did. This was a career high game for Wilkins. 20 carries is a career high. 89 rush yards is a career high. I think he bought himself some playing time, and I think that'll hurt him because now he's going into this matchup against the Ravens. The buy low window on Taylor is open, but it's going to end up being pretty low.
Yeah, well, we heard they spent the whole bye week working on their run game, and
Taylor apparently wasn't part of that. Look, a guy who's supposed to be a beast, sub 4.4 speed and physical as hell. He's running into that offensive line and not going anywhere. He looks a lot. Oh man,
don't even say his name.
Whose name do you think I'm going to say?
Trent Richardson.
You say Trent Richardson's name 3 times. We just said it twice. He's going to appear if you say it. So don't do it.
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor finished with 11 carries for 22 yards and 2 catches. Nyheim Hines had a great game. He had 5 carries, but he had 3 catches, 54 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including a tremendous touchdown catch and cartwheel afterwards. And Jordan Wilkins.
Was that a cartwheel or a flip?
I think it started as like a back handspring and turned into a flip or something.
Yeah, his floor show was amazing.
Yeah. Jordan Wilkins, 20 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown and 1 catch. Phillip Lindsay is the best Denver running back rest of season. Buy or sell?
Buy.
This gets old. Yeah, I would buy it.
Is Azer 2 for 2 on stealing your
2 for 2?
Believe it or not?
That's what he tries to do.
I'm just trying to give you content to embed.
I just don't think that I need to do Believe It or Not for the show anymore.
I think Adam should do it next week.
I do. I mean, I didn't know this, first of all. Just, I guess we're taking.
Maybe we just need better coordination before the show. I can try and.
Phillip Lindsay is the best running back for the Broncos rest of season. I believe it.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Now, he only had 6 carries. Gordon only had 8. Lindsay had, I think, a 55-yard run. Gordon had 26 yards on 8 carries. I guess the only counter here is like Gordon had 6 catches and Lindsay had 1. So, a better one is this. Buy or sell, you can't feel comfortable starting a Denver running back rest of season.
Sure, I believe
They
it.
just start them both.
Start them both.
They've got to see what Lindsay's done now in their wins. They beat the Patriots. Phillip Lindsay had 100 yards. I know Melvin didn't play in that game, but Melvin didn't play in that game. Okay, it's kind of his fault that he didn't play. And then Melvin did play this week.
Sick in that game, wasn't he? Sick?
What was he really sick, or did he? Too much glug glug vroom vroom.
I don't know.
All right, so he didn't make it, and Phillip Lindsay has played very well. I don't know, not very well. He's been hyper efficient. He's got some breakaway speed. They need that in the offense.
All right, buy or sell. Jarvis Landry is a great buy low candidate.
I think you're probably going to have a chance. Like, I wouldn't make any trade offers for him before waivers run.
Buy low.
I think that, like, you may buy him low off the waiver wire.
Yes.
They have a buy this week, and his manager may say buy to him, and so you won't have to buy. You can just add him.
You're looking at his schedule, right?
No, I'm looking at
After
this.
the bye?
I'm looking at the fact that he dropped a touchdown, and if he had caught a touchdown, fantasy managers just wouldn't be dropping him. He would have had over 70 yards and a touchdown in this game, but he ended up with 4 catches for 52 yards on 11 targets. He had a lot more targets than anyone else. And, he's coming off a bye. If he can get healthier, if he were a healthy Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham were out, I think we'd be treating him like a top 24 player.
It depends. And this, I'll just steal from what I was going to say later, I guess. But 6 of 8 games for the Browns, they've thrown for less than 220 yards. So, yeah, if it's Jarvis Landry as a healthy Jarvis Landry on an offense that averages 210 yards passing per game, no, I'm probably out.
All right.
Houston, Philly, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Baltimore, Giants, Jets. That's their schedule from week 10 through week 16. It's really good. I don't really want to give up anything more than my worst bench player for Jarvis Landry. I think Heath's right. He'll get dropped in a ton of leagues. Just pick him up.
I bet you he doesn't. He's 96% rostered. I bet it doesn't get below.
How many touchdowns has he caught this year? How many 100-yard games has he had this year?
I just think.
Why are people holding on to him?
We'll see. You wouldn't hold on to him?
If he's my worst bench player and I need to fill up.
Can we just do the next one?
If he's my worst bench player, I'm just answering the question. Worst bench player, and I need to replace starters who are on bye in week 9. Yes, he's cuttable. Do I want to cut him? No.
Okay. So buy or sell. The following players are all better than Lamar Jackson rest of season: Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, and Drew Brees.
Sell.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
You're not buying Brees.
No. I'm not 100% sure that I'm buying any of them. I think it's an interesting conversation with Herbert and Brady and Jackson. But I certainly wouldn't think that there's very good odds at all that all 3 of them are better than him. And chances are only one of them will be better than him.
He had another day. I'm sorry, Heath. I didn't mean to talk. I thought you were done talking. He had another day with erratic passing. There's been too many of them this year, and he's not making up for it with gaudy rushing numbers. The rushing numbers are great. No one's complaining, but you almost wish that it was like last year, and it's not. He's not.
Dave,
like
he's had more than 53. He's had 53 or more rushing yards in all but one game. And the one game he didn't, he had that ankle injury, that leg injury during practice that week. He didn't practice, so he wasn't running. So if you're going to tell me that he's going to rush for 850 or more yards, that should be enough. Like, he has to be really bad as a passer to rush for 850 or more yards and not be a great fantasy option.
He only had a bad fantasy day today because of turnovers. He had 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions. Turnovers haven't been a problem for him. Like, this is just playing in a very, very good defense. Some have said the best defense in the league.
It's definitely up there as one of the best defenses in the league. But again, he's not getting the job done as a passer like we've seen before. And he only has 2 rushing touchdowns this year. And you mentioned the 53 rush yards. That's all well and good. He's got 1 game this year with over 85 rush yards and 2 with over 75 rush yards.
Like I said, I mean, you're talking over 53 a game. So I was just throwing
That's
out.
Great. So where are the rest of the numbers? Where are the rest of the touchdowns that
but today,
hung on everybody every week?
But today he had, like, if he throws for 200 yards and rushes for 60 yards and has 2 touchdowns every week, he's a top 3 or 4 quarterback.
26.
Right. That's
right there.
awesome.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert and Tom Brady are probably not going to average 26 fantasy points per game the rest of the way.
I don't know about that.
26. I mean, I bet I don't know if that's, let me tell you how many are averaging that now. But all right, well, so who do you definitively have ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson rest of season? If you were doing rest of season rankings right now, Wilson,
Murray, Mahomes. I think Rodgers still belongs. I think Herbert belongs too. I think Brady, now that he's going to have Antonio Brown in that.
I'm saying definitively that you're putting them ahead of him.
I'm telling you, this is my answer.
Okay. Because I thought you were like kind of, those guys are close. I didn't know if they were definitively better. So those 6 you said. Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers.
6.
I think you said Mahomes, Wilson, Rodgers, Murray, Brady, and Herbert.
If I was saying definitively, Wilson and Mahomes would be the only 2 I'd say definitively.
Okay. All right. Next up, last one for me. Buy or sell. Devontae Parker is worse than Corey Davis. Rest of season. Devontae Parker is worse than Corey Davis. Parker caught a touchdown, but it was his only catch on 2 targets, 3 yards.
It was a hell of a throw from Tua.
Yeah.
It really was.
Okay. Honestly,
super tight window.
You love Tua. Okay. You love him, Dave.
He didn't have a great game. He really didn't have a great game in his first start. I was expecting a little bit more.
From 3 yards out. Tua. What a bullet.
Devontae Parker was giving a defender from the Rams a piggyback ride.
It was a great catch is what it was.
No, the ball had to be placed in the exact right spot.
3 yards away.
Nailed it in.
Listen, Adam, he only averaged 4 yards per attempt. The 3-yard completion is like in his 75th percentile.
No, he did not have a great game otherwise, which was a little surprising for me.
Corey Davis, meanwhile, had 10 targets for the second consecutive game. And we set it up for you. Like, this could have been a good game for him, and it was. 8 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown at Cincinnati. Schedule is so much harder. His next 4 games are the Bears, the Colts, the Ravens, and the Colts again.
I'll sell.
So you like Parker better than Davis?
Yes.
Dave?
I really don't feel very comfortable starting either one. I think I'm ready to say Davis over Parker, because I think Davis is going to end up getting more targets from game to game.
Okay. Well, who led the Dolphins in targets this week? It was Myles Gaskin. We will talk about him a little bit later. We also will talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's in our winners and losers section. Guess which section he's in, people? And a lot more news and notes coming up in a bit. Let me tell you, though, about Grammarly. Really, really cool website. Grammarly.com. Go to Grammarly.com/FFT. and get 20% off Grammarly Premium, GRAMMARLY.com/FFT. Grammarly Premium gives you real-time feedback and insights to help you elevate your writing through tone, word choice, clarity, and more. And I'll tell you, the other day, I had to write an email to someone kind of important, I guess, someone from outside the company. So I needed to sound like professional, which is hard for me. I didn't want to sound like a dummy. So I wrote the email, but actually before I sent it, I wrote it in Grammarly right there on the website at Grammarly.com. So I have the Grammarly Premium subscription, and it's really helpful. Grammarly would probably tell me to use stronger words than really helpful. It would give better suggestions, but you can see so much. You can see why I use it so much, why it's so helpful. It gives you ideas on how to take whatever you're writing and make it stronger. Better vocabulary, better grammar, obviously, spelling mistakes, and just different word choice to make things more succinct, like take out this word, you don't need it. Things that just make it more clear, more engaging, and the delivery is better. So this just makes your words more powerful and more meaningful, I would say. If you need to write a paper, if you're writing a cover letter, if you're updating your LinkedIn profile, you can use Grammarly for so many different things. It's extremely helpful, and it's really, really easy to use. I use it, so now you get in there, give it a try. Elevate your writing with 20% off Grammarly Premium by signing up at Grammarly.com/FFT. That is 20% off Grammarly Premium at GRAMMARLY.com/FFT. News and notes. We got some quarterback news. Gardner Minshew is not expected to play next week. if he is no longer the quarterback for the Jaguars, guys, what impact does it have on everyone? Chark, Robinson, Chenault, etc.
Heath, you want to take this one, or do you want?
I don't think we have any idea. I don't think there's not a reasonable strong take to have. We don't have any idea how good Jake Luton is. If they don't think he's ready, and we're rolling Mike Glennon out there, then I think it's probably not a great impact for DJ Chark or anyone else in the offense.
It's James Robinson, and I wouldn't trust anybody else.
Okay. Andy Dalton is expected to play next week. They are playing as we record this on Sunday night against the Eagles. Next week, Steelers, no big deal. Then a bye. Jalen Ramsey had an illness. We didn't know about that until after kickoff. No.
Yeah, they didn't make him inactive.
Okay, so
Jalen was weird.
Nyheim Hines had I talked about that play. Just amazing play. I hope you can see the back handspring, cartwheel, whatever it was. He got a 9 out of 10.
Celebration. It was a celebration is what it was.
Back handspring. T.Y. Hilton left with a groin injury. Myles Gaskin hobbled off in the fourth quarter, but we don't think it's serious. Adam Humphries left with a head injury. That was tough to watch. Gus Edwards left, but he returned. Deontay Johnson left, but he returned. Wasn't really anywhere to be found, but he returned. What, Heath?
Did
he? Pittsburgh defensive lineman Cam Hayward left with an injury with 8 seconds left. Great player. We'll keep an eye on that. Chicago right tackle Bobby Massey got hurt in the first quarter. New Orleans defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins left with an injury in the first half. I did not see if he was able to come back. Minnesota cornerback Cam Dantzler was carted off after a neck injury.
That was scary.
Yes. Yeah. Tough injuries today. And Las Vegas right tackle Trent Brown was taken to the hospital after the team messed up his IV.
That's scary.
Yes.
You also forgot a major injury.
Oh, no. What did I forget?
Kenny Golladay.
Oh, my God.
Hip.
I am very sorry about that. I
didn't even have a catch. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw it. I had it in the notes. I must have deleted it.
Don't worry, bud. I got your back.
Thank you. And Chicago wide receiver Javon Williams, he just punched the guy. It was really weird. He poked him in the face or something, and then he was backed off, and then he's like, no, I'm going to punch you now. Very strange.
He punched him in the helmet.
Yeah.
I think I saw on Twitter that was the same guy that Michael Thomas got in trouble for punching.
It is.
So
Gardner Johnson, very punchable, apparently.
Yeah. I get it. I've not done that, but there have been lots of times with certain coworkers where I've just wanted to run up and punch them in the face.
Are you telling me that you think Adam should wear a helmet from now on everywhere he goes when he knows you're going to be there?
It's good advice.
How mad would you have to be at somebody to punch them in the head when they're wearing a helmet?
I don't know. Let's see if I can take any more of Heath's Believe It or Not, so we'll find out. Winners and losers. All right, Dave's winners are Zach Moss. He and Devin Singletary both had 14 carries for a little more than 80 yards. Good day running the ball for the Bills. But Moss had 2 touchdowns, one from 8 yards, one from 4 yards. And Robert Tunyan was the other winner for Dave. Let's start with Zach Moss. What's your takeaway here?
I think he's the better running back moving forward in Buffalo. And it's because of his opportunity to score inside the 10. We were reminded of that today. And I think, honestly, last week when I watched him and Singletary play, there wasn't a discernible difference between the two. And given the fact that they both had the same amount of carries and nearly the same amount of yards, maybe not so much of a discernible difference this week either. But I think Zach Moss has a chance. Just the fact that he's their short yardage guy or their red zone guy or, inside the 10-yard line guy, whatever you want to call it, I think it helps him.
Mm-hmm. Now, bigger picture, when you look at a guy who's in a backfield by committee and doesn't catch a lot of passes, is this the time to try to sell Zach Moss?
You absolutely could try. There are desperate fantasy managers that are interested in taking on running backs after any running back that's got a chance at 12 plus touches and goal line work on top of it. Mm-hmm. So you can do it. He's got Seattle next week, at Arizona, and then a bye. Not the worst schedule.
And then Robert Tunyan is your other winner. He was only started in 27% of leagues, rostered in 74%, 5 catches, 79 yards, and no touchdown, sorry, on 7 targets, but 5 catches for 79 yards against Minnesota.
encouraged by the 7 targets. He got to work early and late for the Packers. And if they don't make a trade at the deadline and Alan Lazard is still at least another week away, I think he's the most reliable target for Aaron Rodgers outside of Devontae Adams.
Heath, your winners are Corey Davis and Myles Gaskin. Davis with the 128 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets, 2 straight games with 10 targets, and he's been double-digit PPR fantasy points every game this year. And then Gaskin, 18 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown, plus 3 catches for 16 yards. So let's start with Corey Davis. What are you thinking there?
I just think like he is fantasy relevant, and it's more of a dynasty win maybe than it is a redraft win, because the schedule does get very difficult, and he's going to be a number 3 wide receiver. He's not going to emerge and challenge A.J. Brown to be the number 1 on this offense, but it's good to see. He made a couple of just really, really nice plays in this game. A couple of catches that looks like a first-round wide receiver. And it's funny you compared him to Devontae Parker, because Devontae Parker took about this long to be good in the NFL. So it was very encouraging. If you held on to him in Dynasty, great job, and just keep holding on.
Okay, and then before we get to Myles Gaskin, guys, tell me real quick, who do you think is more valuable rest of season, Zach Moss or Corey Davis?
You've got to say Davis, right? Just because of the floor and PPR of 11 points.
I think Moss has more perceived. Games. I think you can trade Moss for more.
Oh, for sure.
So that probably means he's more valuable.
Yeah. Earlier this week, I declined Dave's trade offer of Zach Moss for Cole Beasley. I had Beasley. He offered me Moss.
Should have taken that.
If you'd like to go for it again, Dave. Myles Gaskin, 18 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown, plus 3 catches for 16 yards. Led the team in targets. I've said all this already. And your thoughts on Gaskin?
You said most of them twice.
I just I got to get my helmet. I'll be right back, guys.
He is. This was a difficult matchup, and it's just further proof that Myles Gaskin is a set it and forget it running back. We had some concern about what would Tua do for his target share, and he was the only player, I think, like Preston Williams had 5 targets. Everybody else was like 2 or fewer. It was a game where he only threw 22 passes, and more than a fourth of them went to Myles Gaskin.
Okay. Would you rather have Myles Gaskin?
I'd rather have Myles Gaskin than Zach Moss.
Or James Robinson?
Oh, I'll stick with Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay. Myles Gaskin or David Montgomery?
Say it, Heath.
Montgomery.
No.
You look good today.
Dave was so disappointed.
I wanted you to say Gaskin.
Dave really hates David Montgomery.
I don't hate him. I agree. I thought he had some great moments, but he still, I'm thrilled he had 21 carries and a couple of catches again. Where the hell are the touchdowns?
It wasn't just 20. Like, he had 105 yards today, too.
Yeah, against the good run defense. He had one big run, David Montgomery.
Yep.
It's funny that he finally runs the ball well and he doesn't get his 5 catches. He gets 2, I think.
He had 5 targets. It was just didn't work out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Gaskin over Montgomery rest of the season.
Let's go to Heath's losers. A.J. Green and Deontay Johnson. A.J. Green, 2 catches, 19 yards on 5 targets against Tennessee. Go.
This was one of those where I kind of thought you guys were going to tell me that A.J. Green got hurt, and I just wasn't watching the Bengals game enough to know. He was outperformed not only by Tyler Boyd, not only by T. Higgins, but also by Auden Tate.
Yep.
I kind of really maybe wonder if they were trying to showcase him for a trade. But regardless, I don't think as of rest of season, I feel pretty secure in saying he's the number 3 wide receiver for the Bengals, which means that you're going to be hopeful that he's a number 2 wide receiver on a weekly basis, but you'd rather not have to start him.
He had 24 targets in the 2 games combined coming into week 8. And so people that started him were doing so with the belief that the Bengals would throw a lot and that he would get a big share of those targets. And it didn't happen because Auden Tate got in there, and Burrow had 37 pass attempts. I'm not sure where that ranks compared to how he'd been doing in the previous 2 games. Might be a little low.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. But it was fewer passing yards, a lot fewer passing yards.
Part of the problem and part of the reason those targets kind of disappeared was because throwing to AJ Green for most of the season has not been a profitable endeavor.
No, it's been a chain moving endeavor.
And
they were able to do some of that with the ground game for the first time this year.
You got Team Geo going.
They had Geo with 15 carries, Samaje Perine.
Yeah, what was that all about?
10 carries, 32 yards, a touchdown. How is he playing ahead of Travion Williams?
The only thing I want to know, though, about this is AJ Green's ADOT this year is 14.1 yards before week 8. 14.1 yards run when targeted. That's his average depth of target. Not really conducive to a bad weather game. So is that why perhaps Green had a bad game?
Well, maybe. But again, like the week before against a fantastic matchup in the Browns, he turned 13 targets into 82 yards. Like that was a good game because he saw 13 targets, but he did a bad job with them.
Corey Davis or AJ Green rest of season?
Corey Davis.
I don't mind Davis there one bit. And his ADOT was higher before those 2 previous games, weeks 6 and 7.
Oh, okay.
His ADOT did go down a little bit in those 2 games. It was still over 10, still over 12 actually. But he was running a lot more of those in-breaking routes. He just wasn't targeted as often today. The Bengals were able to run the ball.
Deontay Johnson, 1 catch for 6 yards on 3 targets. And loser, Deontay Johnson.
Another injury.
Like, I don't know how much, and this is like, I don't know all the things that happen in all the games. How much of this game would you say that Deontay Johnson missed because of injury?
Not a lot.
Okay. So this, because like for me, the main reason I would say he's a loser is it's no longer certain if he's going to lead the team in targets. And I'd kind of settled in after that last week and Juju looked pretty good at times in this game. So I think we kind of joked on the FFT this morning about Sportsline had all the Steelers wide receivers ranked in the 40s. And I kind of just want to rank them all like back to back to back from 30 through 32 every week and not deal with it.
Juju had a lot of really tough catches. I mean, he was a beast out there, but only 67 yards on 8 targets. Just everything's so short. But he did make big plays. He was better, I think, on the field today than in the fantasy stat sheet. But at least I think he got you 7 catches, so good in PPR. Dave, give me your losers. We'll spend some time on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then we'll do Ingram real quick, and then we'll get to the games. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, this is 14 carries in his last 2 games. And it was just Patrick Mahomes getting right today. Amazing game for Mahomes. But what do you think about Edwards-Helaire right now? I'm
nervous because he had as many carries as Le'Veon Bell did. And Le'Veon had more catches than he did. Take that back. They had the same amount of catches, but he had more receiving yards Le'Veon did. Neither one was particularly good. And I think you're right. It was probably a game where they were just like, all right, Mahomes is going to do his thing and chuck it deep. And, it's why he's still should be in the MVP race. But it's frustrating because Edwards-Helaire was playing moderately well. And now he's losing playing time and touches to Le'Veon. This is the second week in a row where they've been pretty even in terms of touches. I don't know how much it is in terms of playing time. I could figure that out if you were interested.
No, it's okay. We'll talk about it later in the week. Myles Gaskin or Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Like, I'm getting so nervous to the point where I think I got to say Gaskin.
I think I'd probably say Gaskin.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and still got
I hope I'm wrong on that because he's fun, but I want to look up the snap rate. I got to see what that is.
All right, get back to us. Mark Ingram is another one of your losers. I'll just take this for Dave. Okay, like how can you have any faith in Mark Ingram at this point? Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins were so good today. They were just fantastic. So
the only question I would have about listing Mark Ingram as one of the biggest losers is I'm not sure that he had enough to lose to where he could have lost more than some other people. Like he started off the day with like -1 XP. And so what could he have lost?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 33 snaps. Bell had 17. Thank you to Ben Schrager here. And that was out of 66 snaps. What did Mark Ingram have to lose? He is rostered in 74% of leagues. It's probably just time. He's probably going to miss next week too. what's the point of rostering him?
You mean for the Ravens?
No, for your fantasy team.
There's not.
74% rostered. He's an easy drop.
Dobbins and Edwards are an awesome twosome. Dobbins was making some great plays. He's already good, and he can be so great.
We already see names, especially later in the year, and we're in the middle of the year already, where certain names just don't ever really fall off the radar because their fantasy managers quit. And
I hope it's not week 8.
That does happen.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I just hope it's not happening yet. But I think, it's over for Ingram. No, not to say that when he comes back, it could be the same thing, but the same thing is not worth really rostering in 74% of leagues.
Right.
Praying for a touchdown every week. All right, here we go. Let's go to the games. Buffalo 24, New England 21. Are you ready, Heath?
Oh, I am so ready. I'm so ready because I had a great one that I've already written up for this game. And it was believe it or not, Zach Moss is going to be the best running back for the Bills rest of the season. Believe it or not, Damian Harris is a borderline starter each week.
Well, the YPC people love Damian Harris. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, you would know.
What was it again? Borderline starter?
Borderline starter rest of season for Damian Harris.
I'll buy it.
Sure, I buy it too.
Yeah, and that's one thing we didn't really ever ascribe to running backs in New England that we do with other teams is that running quarterbacks often help running back efficiency. And Cam hurts so bad because of the touchdowns that we don't think about that. But I think it could be having a positive impact on Harris, and he looks pretty good. I wish that Rex Burkhead would totally go away, but he's working on that.
Yeah. What about Sony Michel when he's off IR? Do you think he messes this up?
Hope not.
Okay. Jacoby Myers could be fairly popular on waivers, he's 1% rostered and he had 6 catches after he had 60 yards last week. So
I'm happy about that.
There's something
He's
there.
a good little player.
Josh Allen barely threw today, 11 for 18, 154 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. He ran for a touchdown. So now that is 19 or fewer fantasy points in 4 straight games for Josh Allen. Seattle and Arizona are next on the schedule. What do you guys think about Josh Allen rest of season?
I'm going to start him against Seattle and probably play him in DFS too. I hope he's low owned, rostered.
He won't be. He'll be really popular. They'll expect a bounce back game in which should be a high scoring game.
Yeah, but there's a lot of anti-Josh Allen sentiment, I think, and he's been bad for fantasy 4 games in a row. So should we still consider him a rising star kind of player, or just?
I think there's one thing from this game, watching the end of that game, and it's not fair to say this, and some Buffalo person is going to be mad at me, but it really felt like the Patriots were going to win this game. On that final drive,
I guess.
They were moving down the field with relative ease. And then there was a fumble.
Right. So what does that have to do with Josh Allen?
I just don't know. I don't have any idea how good the Bills really are, or Josh Allen. They were arguably the best team in the AFC, and he was arguably the best QB in the world for a month. Since then, they've looked an awful lot like the pre-2020 Bills.
Yeah, you're right.
And the pre-2020 Josh Allen.
Well, some of those Bill teams could run the football, and this was
ran it pretty well today.
They did. I think it might be the first time all year that they've actually been competent at running the football.
Yeah, it's kind of true. Backs. That's why I'm wondering if this game told us more about the Patriots than it did about Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. It's pretty pathetic that the Patriots just. But earlier in the year, and I don't remember what Moss did in these games, but earlier in the year, Devin Singletary had a game where he ran for 71 yards on 13 carries. Yeah,
he had a game where he ran for 56 yards on 10 carries.
Yeah, he's been pretty disappointing. Now, look what Jeff Wilson did to them. Jeff Wilson last week crushed the Patriots.
It's 3 weeks in a row where a running back has crushed the Patriots.
All right. Well, listen, Josh Allen,
and it's been Phillip Lindsay, Jeff Wilson, and the Bills duo. They haven't been playing against Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry.
Okay, Josh Allen, rest of season.
Top 12 quarterback.
Okay.
No longer top 6.
All right. Next up, Minnesota 28, Green Bay 22.
Believe it or not, Dalvin Cook will be a top 3 running back rest of the season.
Really?
You could do better than that.
What do you think the answer is?
Of course I believe it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Better than Christian McCaffrey?
I think it's Kamara, McCaffrey, and Cook.
So better than Derrick Henry?
Yes. Better than Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I don't really necessarily agree with that. And if you could trade Dalvin Cook for Derrick Henry and pieces, I would definitely do that because you got a much larger injury concern with Dalvin Cook. This was an awesome superstar performance, and he has this ability. He's shown us this ability before. When he's at his best, he's right up there with Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara. But this is also a pretty bad / mediocre team, and he gets hurt every 4 games.
The way you're talking, it's like Dalvin Cook had a bad season before today. He has scored 16 or more PPR fantasy points in every game.
I'm not saying anything bad about Dalvin Cook.
Sounds like the only thing that you can say negatively about him is the injury stuff, right? Like you're dead on about that. He's injury prone.
Well, no. Like if we're comparing him to Derrick Henry, if we're comparing him to like the top 3 or 4 running backs, in half of his games, he's got 65 or fewer rushing yards.
Okay.
I'll tell you,
right.
I think the devil's in the detail there, Heath. You said top 3, and I fell for it.
Good.
Because
so it was a good believe it or not.
I think it's a great believe it or not.
Thank you.
He is not top 3, but he's probably top 4.
He's top 3 for me.
So who's
really,
he's in your top 3 with whom?
With Kamara and
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Okay. And really the passing game stuff, this was awesome that he had 63 receiving yards, but he's got 1 game with more than 2 catches this year. This was his first game with 25 receiving yards this year. He has not had a top, like until this game, he's not had a season that would make you think he's a top 3 running back.
It's kind of a strange year. I'd like to see, okay, we had, I think 14 running backs with 50 or more catches last year. And I'm just not sure we're going to get that this year. You know, I don't know.
Injuries are playing a huge factor.
Yeah, I really have to do this off the top of my head, but it just doesn't seem like that has been as important this year as it had been in the past. And that is something that I talk about all the time. So I was hoping that was going to be once again important. But look, who cares? Dalvin Cook is amazing, and be happy to have him. I wish I had him on more teams. Let's do something for the Packers here. Buy or sell, Allen Lazard should be one of the top waiver wire priorities this week.
Sell.
I'm not.
Should be a top waiver wire priority, just not the top waiver wire priority.
We're not 100% sure he's playing next week, right?
Correct.
What I saw, because he's returned to practice last week, but everything I saw was, man, that's usually like a 6 to 7 week injury, and this is 4 weeks. I think he may still be a couple weeks away, and so no, I do not. I would sell that.
Jason Lockenfor reported this morning on Fantasy Football Today that for sniffing around the Texans for one of their receivers.
Kansas City 35 and the Jets 9.
Believe it or not, Frank Gore is not going to let LaMichael P. Ryan turn into a thing.
Replace that with Adam Gase.
Replace that with anything about the Jets.
I don't think. I do not think that P. Ryan is a thing. There are too many things going against him. I believe that. You know, it's just tough to be on the worst offense in football and be a running back that's worth starting.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, if he and Gore combined for 16 carries and he caught 2 passes in this game, and if he were getting 12 to 14 of those carries and the passing game work, I do think that he would probably be a borderline starter. But that does not seem to be like, and we kind of moved towards that way last week. And then this week, it was all Frank Gore early.
I don't know why people keep saying that. They had the same amount of carries last week.
Right. That was a move in the direction of Michael P. Ryan getting double-digit touches on a weekly basis.
Well, they had similar. I mean, they had the same amount of touches this week. They both had 10 touches. P. Ryan had 8 carries. Gore had 10. Yeah,
we're wasting time.
I think. I mean, it's like best case
way.
scenario is Devontae Freeman, basically, and you roster him because you might need him some weeks, but you're never like, oh, can't wait to start Devontae Freeman. That's kind of how I see these types of situations. For the Chiefs, we talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let me ask you about Tyreek Hill. Can he continue to be this good? He gets 6 targets almost every week, like on the nose. His 16-game pace going into week 8 was 71 catches, 1,003 yards, and 11 touchdowns on 110 targets, plus 123 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So it just kind of felt like he was getting a little lucky. And today, 6 more targets, 4 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Are you just fine with Tyreek Hill and I should shut up about it? Or do you think there's something here that's kind of concerning underneath the numbers?
If you're nervous about something like that, the window to sell high has arrived. He's coming off of a huge game, and you can probably get a decent haul for Tyreek Hill. But it's almost like Gurley, like he's a cooler version of Todd Gurley, who's scoring every single week, and he's getting pretty good numbers on top of it. If he keeps it going without any type of a dry spell, there's nothing to complain about. And what you get with him each week when you start him is unlimited upside. The chance to have a game like he had today, if not a little bit better yardage wise.
Are there 5 wide receivers that you would take ahead of him?
I'd have to think about it.
Let's do it.
I know I'm taking Adams. I'm taking Hopkins.
How about Michael Thomas?
Julio ahead of him. I'm not taking Michael Thomas.
What format are we in?
We're in full PPR.
Yeah, I'd take Michael Thomas.
Are you taking DK Metcalf?
No.
Really?
If Ridley were healthy, I'd probably take him.
Yeah, I am not saying panic on Tyreek Hill. Just he's performing kind of like a first rounder, and he's getting 6 targets most weeks. So,
but in fairness, he is one of the few wide receivers who has done this in the past. Been a first round value in non PPR with 6 targets. He was a top 3 receiver with 95 targets or something.
When?
2017, I believe it was. I'm saying non PPR.
He was the number 1 receiver 2018, I believe, but 95 targets. That's it.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, look it up. Let me know.
Pittsburgh, is another thing that's super important to spend time on.
Pittsburgh 28, Baltimore 24. Ravens had the ball for more than 35 minutes. All right, I'll do a believe it or not on this one then.
Believe it or not, J.K. Dobbins, the top 20 running back rest of season.
Dave?
I want to believe. Want to believe badly. I'm just nervous that the Ravens, no matter what, are going to use multiple running backs.
Sorry, it was 105 targets. He had 75 catches, 1,183 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
And that made him a top 3 wide receiver?
I don't know if it was exactly that. He was a great fantasy wide receiver. I'm not trying to. What are we trying to parse here with Tyreek Hill? I'm just asking. I said something off the cuff. I was not exactly factual.
No, I'm just asking. I was confused here.
I think the point is, if you're not comfortable with what's happening with Tyreek, you could try trading him now while his value is at its highest point of the year.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm trading him. I'm just
not unless you're getting
he was
some
number
really
4
good
that year. I apologize.
I was just asking. You do this to me like 5 times a show. By the way, okay. So welcome to my world.
I enjoy it.
What was the question? Oh, top 20.
J.K. Dobbins, a top 20 running back the rest of the season. I think he can fall into it because the running back position is so fickle.
Why are you asking this about J.K. Dobbins and not also Gus Edwards?
That's a good point. They should both be the co-backs for Baltimore, and the Ravens should try and run it a ton. They're very good at it. Mark Ingram coming back is a slight pain. Worried about it.
Should be.
I am hoping. Listen, the Ravens are really good evaluators of talent and making good use of the talent they have. And one of many exhibits of that was last year with Lamar Jackson. They'd be dumb to not use J.K. Dobbins in at least a part-time role in every single game for the rest of the year.
Oh, talk to me about Mark Andrews. Where are you guys at with him? 3 catches, 32 yards on 6 targets. And now here are his yards in 7 games. 58, 29, 22, 57, 56, 21, 32. So he has not gotten to 60 yards yet. Yes, he catches a lot of touchdowns, but is he still a slam dunk must start guy every week?
No.
It really depends on who else you're talking about. And you almost can put Jonnu in the same bucket. Jonnu's had some disappointing games over the past couple of weeks.
They have been almost exactly the same person. Andrews has 1 more catch, 3 more yards, and the same touchdowns.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's wild between them. I think you're still starting them, though, for their upside. Kind of like what I said about Tyreek Hill, but on a much lower level and at a position where half the tight ends that start in a given fantasy league are going to be cross your fingers and hope they score.
They're time machine Jimmy Graham.
Oh, my God.
Lamar Jackson.
That is one busted DeLorean.
Lamar Jackson is killing Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. free Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati 31, Tennessee 20. Another time of possession game here. Bengals had the ball for about 36 minutes. Tennessee for about 24 minutes. Heath, what's our believe it or not?
Believe it or not, Jonnu Smith is droppable.
Don't believe it. I don't love starting him. It's the whole he's got a lot of upside and he can always score argument for him.
Has he had a good game with A.J. Brown?
Yes, 1 game, 5 catches, 40 yards, 2 touchdowns against Buffalo. Since then, 3 games with 30, like 50 yards combined in 3 games. That's his last 3. And I don't know what he did in week 1 with A.J. Brown, but
4 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay, so 2 games, 2 good games, but no more than 40 yards in any of those games. So he's relying on touchdowns. Jamie was like, I'm nervous about Corey Davis because A.J. Brown is going to get his and Jonnu's going to get his, and you're not going to get 3 good play. And he just switched Davis and Jonnu basically, and that's probably, there's no way all 3 of them are going to be good most weeks.
No.
It's unfortunate. So, all right. Jared Cook or Jonnu Smith rest of season?
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I think it's Cook. As sad as that might be.
You know who's sad right now? Joe Mixon managers watching Gio have these big games.
Well, he's better than him. Everybody knows that.
Okay, that's it for that game. T. Higgins, by the way, just like 70 yards, 70 to 80 yards every week. Pretty reliable guy. Vegas 16. Cleveland 6. Another time of possession game. This one was massive. Vegas had the ball for 37 minutes and 43 seconds. Cleveland for a little more than 22 minutes in this game. Heath, Vegas and Cleveland.
Believe it or not, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are the only Browns you need to hold through their bye week.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, we already talked about that. That Landry is worth holding unless you absolutely need the bench spot. But that's it.
Yeah, well,
yeah, there are. That's the thing I think I would disagree with is I would rather try to beat the waiver wire next week than hold on to Jarvis Landry for 2 more weeks. I'm not going to feel comfortable starting Jarvis Landry in his next game.
Yeah, he probably needs to show it a little bit.
He needs to do something.
He plays Houston.
Yeah.
I might be coming.
Yeah.
He played the Raiders today.
That's true. He had 11 targets today.
They're not good though. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like he should have had 70 yards and a touchdown in this game. That's a big. If he would have had a huge game, you saw his drop. You saw his drop, right? I mean, that was a play he needed to make. And the other guy is Hooper. Look, they had the ball for 22 minutes. They couldn't throw. Baker Mayfield threw 25 passes. I know he's a low pass guy, but this was different.
But it's 3/4 of their games this year with 219 yards or fewer passing. It's not the exception was week 7 against the Bengals. This was not the exception. This was the rule.
Yeah, sure. But still, they don't spread the ball around much, right? So I don't see why Landry can't be a 70-yard guy per game.
Oh, I think they kind of do spread the ball around.
They don't throw to the running backs, really.
I think the spreading could stop.
We don't know because they don't have Beckham anymore.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's my argument for Landry is
they had 4 different players with exactly 3 targets besides Beckham, besides Landry. But theoretically, when Hooper comes back, that would be another person they would throw it to, right?
Sure, but get rid of Harrison Bryant and get rid of Njoku probably, and
both of those tight ends will go down to 1 or 2 targets a game. Is Hooper getting the same type of target share he had before he got hurt?
Yeah, and I don't know if I agree. Like the last game that Hooper played, he had 6 targets and Njoku had 3 and Bryant had 2. There was a game earlier where Hooper had 7 and Bryant had 4. Hooper has 2, at least 2 in every game but 1, I think.
I'm not going to try to predict the targets. I just think that Jarvis Landry is going to be their target leader. And
I would agree with that.
I put it this way. If he were not having such a bad season, there would really be no circumstance where you wouldn't be excited about Jarvis Landry. Even if they were a low passing volume team, you'd be excited about Jarvis Landry without Odell Beckham, right? So just pretend
he was better.
Yeah, if he had been playing better, right? If let's say we were like just drafting.
He was a touchdown catch away from none of this conversation even happening.
We'd be
instead the conversation would be he had 5 catches for blah 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 yards and a touchdown. He had 11 of Baker Mayfield's 25 throws go his way. We'd be jazzed.
Right. That's what I'm kind of
I agree. That argument would hold more water if he had a touchdown catch this season.
Well, he has a touchdown pass, Heath. Like, give the guy some credit.
That's fine. There are going to be people who think that Jarvis Landry is a bust and they're going to drop him during the bye week, and that's fine. If you can afford to stash him, there are some matchups coming up that are favorable, and it should work out for him. Number 3 receiver in PPR. Come on, if you're picking that up off the waiver wire, that's not such a bad thing.
Miami 28, Rams 17.
Believe it or not, Darrell Henderson's days as a number 2 fantasy running back are numbered.
There's 2 ways that I could believe that. Number 1, the injury that he had. We don't know the severity of it, but the fact that he didn't play in the second half isn't good. And number 2, the fact that Cam Akers started to look like a day 2 draft pick and not a day 3 round 7 pick. More importantly, didn't get treated like one is important too. I'm hesitant to feel good about Henderson as a number 2 fantasy running back, but there's uncertainty.
And buy or sell. Buy or sell like Heath guy on the Rams wide receivers.
I'm sorry, buy or sell what?
Heath Sy on the Rams wide receivers. Like, that's basically how I feel about them.
What do you mean? They both had great games. Bro, they're both number 2 wide receivers.
61 times.
Yeah, it's
Robert Woods had another rushing touchdown. You can count on that.
Exactly. I don't see how you can sit them. They find ways to produce. It has not been.
You start them. They're good.
All right, I'll start them. Indianapolis 42, Detroit 21. A game Detroit barely had the ball. 22 minutes and 14 seconds. Heath, what do you got?
Kind of a theme for this week, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of lopsided possession times. Heath, Colts and Lions.
Yeah. Believe it or not, DeAndre Swift is not getting a feature role in Detroit anytime soon.
Define feature role, please.
14 plus touches on a regular basis.
Yeah, this game kind of makes me believe that.
Why though? Listen,
because he didn't play a ton.
The running backs combined for 11 carries in this game. There just wasn't enough work to go around. This is why I've been.
Don't you think the Lions, if they were able to have a sustained run game, they wouldn't be in such a lopsided time of possession
getting blown
situation?
Out. You know, they were.
They could have done it earlier in the game.
Yeah, well,
they were ahead for like the first quarter and a half or something, weren't they?
They scored.
Didn't they jump out to a lead?
They started 7-0, and then Indy scored 20 points unanswered.
They score the first in every game this year. Look, when you, the first thing you should do if you see your player like didn't get a lot of work, what really disappointed is check time of possession. It's important. 22 minutes of 14 seconds is extremely low. So there's that. I'm not even disagreeing. I just want to bring it up. Like, they just didn't have the ball and they weren't in the position to run the ball. You would have liked to see him catch the ball a little bit more.
Like maybe when they're 9 yards away from the end zone and Stafford throws a pass in the flat to his running back and he's, headed right for the pylon for a touchdown. Yeah. Like, why is he in? Why is Kerryon Johnson playing and not DeAndre Swift? Did Swift get hurt and we don't know? I'm kind of flummoxed by this because he was going in the perfect direction and it started to make me believe the Lions coaching staff was coming around on him. And now I feel
okay. I'm going to make you happy. Schrager just gave me the snap counts. Swift 38, Peterson 12, Kerryon 11.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. I can't complain about that part.
Tell me
about
a
lot and he still didn't get the ball very much. That's super.
Happens. Tell me about the impact of Kenny Galladay's injury, because Marvin Jones is coming on a little bit here. He had 2 touchdown catches. He's 52% rostered. Good day for Marvin Hall. Danny Amendola was okay. If Galladay's out, what happens?
The Lions suck.
Hey, Heath, if Golladay comes back, what happens?
The Lions are mediocre with Kenny Golladay.
Okay. Look, I think it was good for. Am I picking up Marvin Jones? Yeah, maybe he could be a guy that can fill in for some bye weeks.
If Kenny Galladay's ruled out for next week, and your worst bench player is Jarvis Landry, are you dropping him to pick up Marvin Jones?
Do I need a receiver to start next week?
You have a wide receiver that you rank at number 35 currently in your starting lineup.
And who do the Lions have next week? Minnesota?
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of tempted to make the move, I have to admit. I am tempted to drop Landry for Marvin Jones. I think Hawkinson can be a big winner out of this. The targets this week were excellent for him. 10 of them led the team. I don't know what to make of Marvin Hall.
Well, first 2 games of the season without Golladay, he had actually decent production. He had 4 catches for – oh, no, that's Marvin Jones. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't think he had good production. He had 4 targets in those 2 games.
And Tez Cephas had like 16 targets in those
He had a big
games.
opportunity, and he blew it, and now he's on the bench forever.
Also worth noting, Matthew Stafford usually throws about 32 times per game. This week he threw 42. Last week he threw 36. So it's good to see after 3 straight games of 31 passes, 2 straight games with 36 or more. Denver and Los Angeles. I cannot believe the Broncos won this game.
Really?
Wait.
Have you not watched the Chargers game in the last 5 years?
Do you know who they were playing?
I think, do you know who the Chargers are playing? The Broncos are terrible. 31-30, Broncos win. And the Broncos only had the ball for 24 minutes and 7 seconds, by the way. What do we got for this one? Buy or sell, or believe it or not?
Yeah, I think this one will probably be controversial, but believe it or not, Noah Fant is a top 5 PPR tight end rest of season.
I thought about you throughout the entire game with Noah Fant. I feel like you're projecting him because he's great. I love him. I feel like you're projecting him as if he's on a good offense and he's on a terrible one.
No,
Here's
but he
the
gets a
thing.
nice target share.
On a per game basis, he's been number 6 this year.
That's interesting.
He's been better than Mark Andrews and Jonnu Smith on a per game basis this year.
But that's weighed heavily by the first 2 weeks of the season.
But he scored 2 touchdowns and they've scored 5.
This is in full PPR. Is he just getting a lot of catches?
Well, no, he had those 2 games early.
He
on,
has 29 catches in 6 games. Andrews has 23 in 7 games.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
35 to 47 yards in 4 straight games. That's just not very good.
Well, it's not.
And no touchdowns.
But it's also a lot like Mark Andrews and Noah Fant.
Yeah. Who?
Mark Andrews and Jonnu Smith.
Yeah. Tight end's getting worse and worse every week.
It's by far the worst.
All right, look, you're not dropping him. You're probably starting Noah Fant. Let me ask you about Justin Jackson. This was a hell of a game for Justin Jackson.
This is something that I was hoping for last week from Jackson.
And Troymaine Pope got 15 touches in this game, and Josh Kelly got 8.
There was kind of a period of time where Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly got sat down, and we saw like the Troymaine Pope show, and he's not. I don't think, no offense to Troymaine Pope, that's not his role, but he ran like a little firecracker, and Justin Jackson came back in, and then he was a little bit better, and then they brought Kelly in at the very end, and he was still a slug. But no, this was a good game for Justin Jackson. It's just that I'm afraid there's not going to be a lot of games where they have 45 running back touches to go around, and he's not going to get more than 60% of them.
But how many games are there going to be a Chargers running back with, or 3 Chargers running backs getting a decent amount of work each?
I think it'll usually be 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think he's the best one.
Yes.
For now, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When Austin Eckler comes back, he might be a little better. But for now, I think Jackson is the best one. Pope left late in the game. He took a wicked hit.
Mike Williams had his best game of the year that Keenan Allen played or did not leave early with an injury, basically.
That's true.
What did you make of that? 5 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown.
I feel like he's really hard to predict from game to game. And at best, he's a number 3 receiver, like a boom bust type of a flex play or number 3 receiver, like I said.
Who do you like? Rank these 3 rest of season. Mike Williams, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy.
I'm glad you brought up Jeudy because I'm wondering if he's starting to get it. Maybe not.
I'd go Jeudy, Williams, Patrick.
If Patrick's healthy, I'm still going to say Patrick first, Williams second, Jeudy third.
New Orleans 26, Chicago 23 in overtime. Heath.
Darnell Mooney matters.
I know.
Bye week guy in non-PPR. I used him as a bye week guy in a couple of leagues this week.
He has had 5 or more targets in 6 straight games now.
And he has had, like, every week there are 2, and they connected on it this week on one of them.
Yeah.
But every week there are 2 or 3 times that Darnell Mooney has embarrassed the person assigned to covering him and is running just wide open down the field, and Nick Foles misses him by 7 or 8 yards. But he's good. He can get open, and he is their big play guy. And there will be a couple of weeks where Nick Foles is accurate.
I'm not sure that there will be because he is really flirting with the bench. I mean, Troy Aikman was basically calling for Trubisky, and Aikman said that Matt Nagy said he's not making a change. So that
he already committed to that.
Yeah,
he made the switch in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess you have to bet on Foles keeping the job, but if you're in a 2 QB league and you're desperate, it's really not out of the question.
Foles started Mitchell Trubisky in a 2 QB league today. I thought he was going to get benched.
Oh man! All right.
Believe it or not, Anthony Miller is back.
No,
I do not believe it.
I don't.
All right, one more game. Seattle, San Fran. Seattle with the 37-27 win.
Believe it or not, DK Metcalf is back.
I believe it.
I think next week you should start Tyler Lockett.
I'm going to start them both every week.
Feels like you're making fun of me when you say that, as if I was sitting Tyler Lockett.
Why would I make fun of you?
Oh, right, because I just kept saying that Tyler Lockett, he's less than 60 yards every single time he gets a 100-yard game.
I don't think I was ever on the show when you said that.
Okay, I don't think you were either.
So it'd be odd if I knew because I.
Yes. What else? What do we got here?
Believe it or not, Brandon Ayuk is going to be the best rookie wide receiver rest of season. We've done this with like 17 rookie wide receivers every time they have a good game.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not.
So it's not CeeDee Lamb, obviously. It can't. I mean, you can't say it's Justin Jefferson after today, can you?
I'm not like today doesn't bother me at all with Jefferson.
I agree.
Terrible weather, and they threw 14 times.
Yep. And I think T. Higgins will have something to say about it. And Chase Claypool will have something to say about it. Although I do wish Claypool was a little more. Well, he had one bad game last week. It's hard to say that he can't be consistent.
Well, he has not had
he
he hasn't had a good game yet when Deontay Johnson didn't get hurt.
Right. But how many good games has Eyuk had when Deebo Samuel was played? I think that's the big split there to me is Eyuk was so obviously going to be good in this game. And Deebo, I think Deebo's better. I think Deebo is more involved. If the two of them were healthy, I would take Deebo over Eyuk. So that's why I can't say Ayuk's the best rookie wide receiver because I think his numbers go down when Deebo gets back. I will take T. Higgins, sirs. I
mean, Ayuk's pretty lucky that Garoppolo got hurt.
And that Kittle
not having a good day before Jimmy G got hurt.
I think he had like 60 yards. Actually, I don't know exactly what the numbers were now.
What are you talking about at halftime?
No, it was like the beginning of the fourth quarter for Eyuk. But
at halftime,
you're right.
He had 25 yards on 2 catches.
It was disappointing for the whole offense. What do you think? Who do you think is going to be the best rookie wide receiver going forward?
Oh, I don't know.
Higgins or Jefferson.
That's why
Higgins is probably the best bet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okie dokie, guys. And that's it. Start Russell Wilson. Thanks
Which
for listening.
49ers running back are you going to start next week?
Hasty.
Yeah.
You said that with some haste in your
I know. I was trying to like, come on, think of a pun. I couldn't. They got the Green Bay
on the short week.
Swiss cheese defense, if I may say so.
Yeah, there it is.
There, yes. Redemption. Okay.
And now you're choking on your own spittle.
I'm good. Goodbye. Let's end the show. Bye, everyone. Talk to you on Monday. See ya.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.